Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to another YouTube video. My name's Ketan. I call myself that day-to-day guy, and just here on YouTube sharing some of my life experiences and just a normal, well, that's why I call myself that day-to-day guy, because I'm just a normal guy, middle-aged man, just going through life just like anyone else. Nothing special or out of the ordinary about me. And as you can probably tell already, I'm not a professional YouTuber either. But anyway, my style of videos are just me talking to you, the person on the other side of the camera. And hopefully some of what I say lands. And today's subject is your relationship with your parents. And I have spoken about this before. But last week I was in the cinema watching the new Bruce Springsteen biopic movie. They seem to be doing this about everybody now, about everybody, and most of them are actually pretty decent, and it gives you an insight into somebody's character over and above their music. I never knew much about Bruce Springsteen other than the fact that he's a freaking legend, but seeing what he went through with his parents, but particularly with his dad, I was sat in the cinema thinking to myself, I'm seeing my parents next Sunday, but that's too far. I want to see my parents sooner. So I went around there this morning and had a nice, it's Monday, by the way, had a nice chat with them. Sometimes I find myself just around my parents' house and we just sit there and don't particularly do anything, don't particularly talk about anything, special, but just being in their proximity and knowing that I'm getting to spend time with them is nice, because when you get to my age, your parents are probably in their late 60s, maybe even older, because my parents had me when they were quite young. So, time is limited. So make the most of what you can with your parents. It's so heartbreaking to see your parents age. My parents, my dad in particular, he opened the door and bless him, he's just in his trousers and a t-shirt. And I looked at him, I thought, oh man, he's getting a bit frail, This is the guy who would, be climbing up ladders and, using power tools and just doing all manner of, physical work. My dad was a worker, like a proper worker. I can't even, whilst I have a good work ethic, my dad was on another level. But yeah, like if you don't have a great relationship with your parents, and sometimes there's a good reason for that, because, sometimes people are just dickheads, and our parents are human just like anyone else. But if your parents are generally relatively nice people, and you know that, and you would know this, if you're honest with yourself, make an effort with them, because when they're gone, you will absolutely regret it. But yeah, I was just having a chat with my mum and dad earlier about, whatchamacallit? My dad was telling me about how when he first came to England. He first came to England and his brother lived in Manchester at the time, so his brother met him at Heathrow Airport. They took a train to Shepherd's Bush, a family member's house, one of my aunts, and they had lunch there, and then straight away my uncle took my dad up to Manchester. And I didn't even know this, but my dad worked in a cotton mill for 2 months in Manchester. And then he moved down to London and got into the building trade. But he said to me, when I was going to London, he took the train on his own, obviously, because his brother said, my uncle said to my dad, when you get to London, you should get off the last stop. The last stop will be London. And my dad got the last stop. The last stop said Euston. And my dad thought that's somewhere else. My dad was waiting on the train and somebody had to come on and say, what are you waiting for? Like, this is the last stop. My dad said, no, I need to get to London. And the guy was like, this is London. So all these cute stories just make me realize like what my parents would have gone through in those days and what they've achieved is really like remarkable. And it's just nice hearing all these little stories. And another thing, my mum gave me some food and she put it in a container, and I picked the container up, and it was the same container. And when I mean same, I don't mean it was like another. It was the actual container that I used to take my sandwiches to school in. And that would have been what, 33, 30, no, yeah, 35 odd years ago. Like, it's insane. And mum still got it, and she was saying, your dad bought these, they was expensive at the time. Mum likes laboring on about, like, your quality things, and, you make sure you make things last. And she's of that generation, you don't buy something just to replace it for the sake of it. You use things until they break and are impossible to use again. But some of these traits that my parents have that I used to find really annoying when I was younger, I've now adopted, and I just think it's funny. But I really would say to you, like, see your parents as people. They had a youth, they had things that they enjoyed, and they had dreams that they wanted to fulfill. And for a lot of us, who, when you get to kind of my age, you do realize the sacrifice your parents made in order for you to have the life that you have. And I don't have like guilt over it, but nevertheless, I definitely acknowledge and appreciate the things my parents sacrificed for my brother and I to have the life that we have. So yeah, just, if you've got a bit of a strange relationship with your parents, because it gets to the point where you're the adult and they're like the child, it's a kind of a role reversal. So sometimes, it might take you to, if you've got a bit of a shaky relationship, to, kind of throw out an olive branch to your parents and kind of rekindle that relationship. Because believe you me, one of the things you don't want to happen is, one of your parents passes away, or both, and you then have regrets about, because there's some things you can change. There's some things in life that happen that you can get over. You lose your money, you can make money again, and you lose your job, you get another job, and you break up with somebody, you can get somebody else again. But once your parents are gone, and that's it. They're not there's some people in your life that just aren't replaceable. And I know, if you lose a partner, you don't replace that person as such, but your parents are just one set, and that's it. Obviously, you've got adoptive parents and so on and so forth. And sometimes there's people in our life, if you don't have, parents around, other people kind of take that role and are, like your parents. Like I don't have sisters, but I've got lots of friends who are like my sisters. I've got cousins who are just, like my sisters. I treat them as if I would treat a sister, if that makes sense. So, yeah, I think I've made my point in a very, very roundabout way. So if you haven't spoken to your parents in a while, pick the phone up. There's another thing as well. Technology has made it so much easier for us to speak to our parents on a regular basis. I don't phone my parents. I always video call with them, just to see their face and have a chat with them. And, and I do this every few days. And it's just a nice way to stay connected. But obviously, I can also get in a car and go over there and see them, which I try to do as much as I can. But yeah, after watching that film, like I said last week, I thought, let me see as much of my parents as I can before they go away to India, to the motherland, for a couple of months of sunshine while we are here in this lovely winter, cozy weather. But yeah, over the coming months, I will try to mix up the kind of content I put out. I really want to do a video about my car. Some people are kind of anti-electric car and so on. I was going to do it this week, but unfortunately just didn't have the weather for it. So fingers crossed I can do something in the coming week and get that out for you guys next week. I say you guys as if you guys want to see it, but there'll be somebody on the internet that will be interested in a e-tron GT. So yeah, the whole point of my YouTube channel isn't for one particular niche or one particular reason. It's just I share things that I like and that I find topical and basically talk about them. So yeah, there we are. I will say thank you for watching for now, and we'll catch you next time. Ciao for now.